Hello, dear students. Welcome to Unit 5 of the course. We shall look at Section 1, which is on the learner's role in social studies. To continue, we shall briefly look at some objectives for this session. Objective 1 states that by the time we finish this session, you should be able to explain the role of the learner in social studies. Then 2, you should be able to discuss why the learner needs to be observant in class. Now let's look at the learner's role one by one. The first one is that the learner is expected to be observant during the social studies lessons. The learner is supposed to observe around what is happening during the lesson. That will give him enough evidence to support any discussions during the class. For example, there will be demonstrations, there will be dramatization, there will be role play, field trips, film shows, and all while these are going on, the learner is to observe critically, especially if his colleagues are the ones carrying out these activities, so that when he or she observes critically, it will enhance their understanding. The second rule, of course, is that the learner is expected to be actively involved in the lesson. The learner will have to involve in some practical activities such as field trips. There can be workshops, there can be laboratory activities, and even discussions. While the learner engages in these activities, it will enable him or her acquire the necessary skills and knowledge needed for development. For example, in case there is talks or discussion concerning environmental degradation, in order for the learner to actively involved, they have to apply the experiences gained during the lesson. And this will also enable the learner to better understand the social issues under discussion in the class. The third role that the learner has to play is that of note taking. For example, during field trip, debate or discussions that is held in the classroom, the learner has to take notes, which in the long run will serve as a reference point because the learner cannot remember everything that is said in the class without jotting down the relevant points. This will enable the learner to be able to recall all that happened during the lesson. The other role the learner has to play during social studies lesson is that of inquiry or carrying out research work. When the students are encouraged to inquire or search for information, they get better information because they themselves engage in looking for information, and this will enable them answer questions posed by the teacher during the lesson. And when the student also engage in inquiry or research work, they are able to think critically And because they're able to search for information from different sources, it clarifies their thought or it clarifies their misgivings. By so doing, it affords them the ability to peruse issues in a very critical manner. Another role the learner has to play is that of communication. We have already looked at the fact that the learner play role of research work or inquiry. So when the learner looked for information, he has to share his information or his findings to the class for others also to benefit. So whatever ideas or information that is arrived at during the inquiry, the learner has to share these ideas with his or her colleagues. It is the learner's role to use the ideas, generalization, theories that are learned in social studies, and this will help him or her to solve problems that may come along their way. For example, the knowledge the learners acquire in citizenship education can be communicated to others to also learn from, which will along with nurture our democracy. We have looked at the role of the learner, in particular social studies class. We've talked about the fact that the learner is expected to observe, actively engage in lessons, take note, listen assertively, use knowledge and skills and generalization in a holistic manner, and also undertake basic research, and at the end of the day, communicate his findings to the entire class. I hope you have understood what we discussed as far as the learner's role are concerned in social studies. Let's try our hands on two self-assessment questions. 1. Why should the social studies learner observe social phenomena? 2. Explain 3 roles the social studies learner is expected to play. I hope you have got the answers right. You can share your answers with your colleagues. Thank you.